How can a single image restore hope to those in the depths of despair?
The Pia is here. The PLA has arrived.
18 years later, seeing these images again, I believe it still brings tears to the eyes of every Chinese person. This remains an eternal scar in the hearts of our nation. May 12, 28, 2:28 p.m. A sudden, massive earthquake tore through the land of Wenchuan. Its force was equivalent to 10 Hiroshima atomic bombs, detonating at once, devastating an area of over 100 square kilometers with 30 million people. Affected mountains crumbled, and the earth split apart. Homes collapsed, burying countless lives beneath the rubble. This was the most severe natural disaster since the founding of the People's Republic. Disaster is the command. Saving lives is the priority. When one place suffers, help comes from everywhere, united as one. This is a belief engraved in the very soul of our people. An army of 100 rushed from all directions, military and civilians standing together. They risked their own lives to protect and save others, launching a life and death rescue in a desperate race against time. Soldiers, doctors, officials, and teachers, countless ordinary people stepped forward in the hour of need. Through sacrifice, they wrote a soul-stirring epic of courage and rescue. When despair shrouded the land, those glimmers of camouflage became the brightest hope. Today, let us relive this soul-stirring rescue masterpiece. Shocking. On that day, May 12, 2008, students were like carefree birds playing and frolicking on the playground. Teacher Zhu had just received her approved marriage leave, her face beaming with infinite dreams for the future. Meanwhile, SWAT officer Zhang Qianquan, heading home on a bus, was happily texting his fiancée. A mother was at the supermarket, buying cherries for her daughter, waiting joyfully for their children to come home. At the military base, Brigade Commander Tang Xinsheng is leading his unit in high-intensity military combat drill. Meanwhile, in Wenchuan County Party Secretary Ren Yue has just seen off the scientific expert supporting the Western Development Project. Then he receives a call from his elderly mother, telling him to come home early for cherries. Everything seems so peaceful, beautiful, and full of hope. However, at 2:28 p.m., the wheel of fate comes to a grinding halt. The director employs a striking audio-visual contrast here. One moment, warm dialogue, the next. The earth begins to tremble. The school bell rings and teacher Chi shouts for the students to return to class. Just as a student bends down to pick up a basketball, a slight tremor begins, and an unprecedented disaster erupts. Mountains collapse before their eyes. As far as the eye can see, the earth shudders, bridges and buildings crumble. In an instant, students scramble to escape, but it is already too late. Teachers use their own bodies to shield their students, only to be buried beneath the ruins. Moments later, bridges collapse in violent contortions, as countless lives are instantly swallowed by the billowing dust. On the national highway, a crowded bus is struck by boulders and plunges into the abyss. The mother, buying cherries, hasn't even left the supermarket before she is mercilessly buried by the collapsing building. In just 2 minutes, a familiar home is reduced to a living hell. Communication networks are instantly paralyzed, plunging all of Wenchuan into a state of endless panic and deathly silence. A magnitude 8.0 earthquake with a focal depth of 14 kilometers is a shallow earthquake with catastrophic destructive power. In the wake of the earthquake, communications were completely severed. This meant they were utterly cut off from the outside world. On this land, literally torn asunder, the wails and cries of survivors merged, some even clawed through the rubble with their bare hands. Even with bloodied hands, their resolve to save lives remained unshakable. County Party Secretary Ren Yu suppressed the immense grief of losing her mother. Standing atop the ruins to address the panicked crowd, she...
Now, we must unite for self-rescue and call for help. Every second counts. The sooner we act, the more lives we can save.
The party's Central Committee, State Council and Central Military Commission have activated the National Emergency Response Plan's Deputy Commander, Liang, the frontline commander-in-chief, received an absolute order at any cost, assess the disaster, and make every effort to save lives.
Yes, sir. The mission will be accomplished.
The motorized infantry brigade, under Tang Xinsheng, fresh from an exercise, was blocked by massive landslides. As a survivor of the Tangshan earthquake, Tang Xinsheng recognized this scent of devastation better than anyone. He knew a quake of this intensity was enough to level an entire city. With every passing minute beneath the ruins, thousands of lives could vanish.
Mobilize the troops, move out immediately to the nearest town, Yinshan. We haven't received any orders yet. This is the order. Saving lives is our command. I'm back. No one's coming. So be it. Protecting the lives of the people is our sacred duty. I will share this responsibility with the brigade commander. Qin Dabao present. Mobilize the unit and march on Zhenchuan at once.
Reports of the catastrophe began to pour in. The massive gears of the state apparatus turned toward the disaster zone at full speed. In the hardest hit area, under Secretary Ren Yue's leadership, a team of veterans, militiamen, and medical personnel was swiftly formed. Armed police officer Shang Xiangquan also joined this makeshift team. Without hesitation, the frontline headquarters fully deployed, the PLR marched toward the disaster area. But the epicenter is set in deep valleys and high mountains with relentless torrential rain. The weather conditions are extreme. Conventional helicopters cannot enter at all. With the lives of tens of thousands, unknown Deputy Commander Liang slammed the table in resolve.
We are all soldiers. You must understand. This is a war. There is still no word from the epicenter in the Yinchuan area. The fates of tens of thousands remain unknown. We must carry out an airborne drop at all costs.
Thus 15 heroes from the paratrooper division wrote their final letters. With no ground guidance, no markers, and no weather data, they leapt from an altitude of 50 meters. They created a miracle in the history of world paratrooping, carved out a lifeline between the sky and the ruins. Tang Xinsheng, over here, with so many roads and bridges collapsed, the troops had to abandon their vehicles. Even if they have to crawl, they must reach the hardest hit area.
Staff Officer Jin, pass the word down. Leave some men to guard the gear and maintain contact with HQ. The rest of you take shovels, pickaxes, jacks, and fire extinguishers. Bring everything and anything that can be used for rescue. Yes, sir.
Upon the command, the troops advanced rapidly toward Yingchuan. In the pouring rain, the exhausted soldiers haven't had a drop of water for a day and night. During a rest, Tang Xinsheng spotted a soldier kneeling on the ground and was instantly infuriated.
What is going on here? Man's dignity is in his knees, especially for one who is a soldier.
But just as he was about to reprimand him, he was stopped by the political commissar, for they had just passed by the very hometown of this soldier. A massive landslide had completely buried the entire village. Hearing this, the commander's eyes welled up with tears. He silently walked behind the soldier and knelt with him toward the direction of his home. The rain and tears on his face were now indistinguishable. At this moment, they were not just soldiers, but sons who had lost their loved ones. But now is not the time for sorrow, because thousands of people are still waiting for them to save lives. The next day, the troops were once again blocked by a landslide. Climbing over would take days. They could wait, but the victims in the disaster zone could not. To arrive sooner, the commander decided to risk everything and break through via the waterway.
Who here is an only child? Raise your hands.
This is a life and death struggle. Amidst constant aftershocks, the water route was far deadlier than land, but every soldier was steeled with resolve. They only awaited the commander's final order. Then the commander asked who was not an only child. He walked up to a recruit and gently pressed down his hand. To his surprise, the recruit raised his hand again. With a firm gaze, he insisted he was not an only child. The commander fell silent. No one can underestimate a Chinese soldier's resolve to save lives, not even the commander. They all understood their sacred mission as members of the People's Liberation Army, and so the commander took the lead and jumped into the water.
Our brothers and sisters in the disaster area are waiting for us. Men, follow me.
At the word of command, every man followed suit. The people's army always puts the people first. This is the essence of Chinese soldiers. No matter how perilous the path, or if it costs them their lives, they charge forward without a moment's hesitation. The long forced march left the soldiers on the verge of total exhaustion, but the thought of millions of compatriots waiting for help pushed them on. They ignored the pain and pressed forward. Meanwhile, Secretary Ren and the villagers had already rescued many. Without heavy equipment, their efforts were a mere drop in the bucket. A mother could only watch helplessly as her child lay pinned beneath the rubble, powerless to act as despair enveloped everyone. Suddenly, the 5-star red flag appeared on the distant horizon. She wiped her eyes in disbelief and, taking a closer look, realized it was the People's Liberation Army.
Chapter 3. The PLA has arrived. The PLA is here. Sobbing.
The PR was there too. Every eye was fixed on that beacon of hope. In that moment, they could no longer hold back and burst into tears of relief. People who had lost their pillar of strength saw the national flag and felt the hope of survival rekindled. Secretary Ren threw herself onto a soldier, weeping uncontrollably. She had waited so very long for this moment.
What is the situation? Brigade Commander!
Ma'am, this is our brigade commander, Tang.
And this is our party, Secretary Ren.
Ren, you. Putin has collapsed. People are buried everywhere. Please save them.
That's him! Save everyone at all costs. Deputy Chief of Staff Zhang here, sir. Take your men immediately to the schools, offices, malls, and residential areas. Go where the people are most in need.
Without a moment's rest, the soldiers rushed straight into the ruins. The arrival of the PLR significantly boosted the efficiency of the rescue efforts. Yet, as the wounded were pulled out, one by one, new challenges emerged. Medical supplies were in dire shortage, and with no excavators available, they dug and moved debris by hand as blood supplies ran low. Soldiers vied to donate.
Take mine first, I'm type O.
Just then, main forces from various military regions began to arrive, easing the dire shortage of relief, supplies and equipment. As slab after slab of concrete was lifted, the teacher who used his body to shield his students was finally found. He was still clutching the podium tightly. The children were unharmed, but he had already grown cold. The scene moved everyone to their core. How much courage does it take to sacrifice oneself so selflessly when disaster strikes? Teacher Zhang's sacrifice did more than save lives. It stood as a spiritual monument amidst the ruins.
The teacher's arms protecting the students have grown stiff with rigor mortis, and they are pinned under the floor slab. I want to save the children. We have no choice but to sever the remains.
How can we do that?
Use a chainsaw.
Don't hesitate. Just do it. I believe this is what Teacher Zhang would have wanted.
Rescue routes were opened. One by one, heavy machinery, medical supplies and volunteers flooded into Yangchuan like a torrent. Deputy Commander Liang finally joined Tang Xinsheng as the full force of the state intervened. Rescue operations gained significant momentum. Our local survivors used what little grain they had left overnight to steam baskets of hot buns, personally delivering them into the hands of the soldiers. But where there is life saved, there is sacrifice. A sudden aftershock struck during the rescue. That recruit who had refused to admit he was an only child threw himself forward the moment the floor collapsed, shielding his comrades with his own body. It wasn't until late at night that his body was recovered by his brothers in arms. The brigade commander personally wiped the dust from his face. He was a soldier, but he was also just a boy who had only just turned 18.
Tianyi used his body to hold back the falling slab. All 3 children were saved.
Listen, you have to hold on. Today is your birthday. Your classmates all said they want to celebrate your birthday. Oh, happy birthday to you. Oh, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. 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 He heard us singing. He heard it too.
While more and more are being rescued, far more lives have been lost. In the crude conditions of the rescue site, people used bricks to write the names of the victims, paying tribute to the loved ones they lost in the earthquake. Everyone removed their caps in silent mourning to bid them a final farewell. Yet, before the grief could even settle, an even greater crisis loomed. Water levels in the upstream Chaidingshan Barrier Lake are surging, threatening to breach at any moment. During aerial reconnaissance, helicopters discovered another deadly threat, a severe toxic gas leak at the Yufeng chemical plant, just 50 kilometers from Yingchuan. Worse still, the factory area is stockpiled with vast amounts of flammable explosive and highly toxic chemicals, including 0 tons of sulfur. The situation is beyond critical. Command immediately dispatched the motorized infantry brigade to handle the mission. Brigade commander Tang led his team toward the Yufeng chemical plant, but the earthquake had destroyed all access roads. They had no choice but to enter an abandoned mining area. Navigating through its tunnels, floodwaters had already filled the caves. If the exit were to be submerged, everyone would be trapped and face certain death. Without hesitation, the brigade commander ordered them to press on. Fortunately, the exit was clear, but they emerged to face a sheer towering cliff. A detour would take too long, leaving them with only the most perilous option, descending the precipice by rope ladder. Meanwhile, the plant had become a living hell with toxic fumes spewing from billowing smoke. Overcome by gas workers lay scattered everywhere. Soldiers quickly donned their masks and launched the rescue. Hundreds of toxic canisters were leaking, with their hazmat suits buried under rubble. They had to push deep into the danger zone with only basic gear. Amidst sun-blotting toxic clouds, the soldiers braved the danger to manually shut off the valves. Suddenly, another aftershock struck. Friction between pipes sent sparks flying, instantly igniting the chemicals on the ground. The sudden blaze compounded the peril of the rescue operation. Even more critically, the fire was closing in on a warehouse holding 20 tons of sulfur. If it were to explode, the consequences would be catastrophic. Deputy Commander Liang immediately ordered the fire to be contained at all costs. Soldiers charged into the flames with sandbags, but manpower was limited and time was running out. Watching the fire rage out of control, Commander Tang eyed a nearby slope and made a bold decision: blast the mountain to smother the fire.
Brigade Commander Tang proposed a daring plan: use directional blasting to bury the spreading flames under a landslide of debris, completely isolating the heat from combustible and explosive sources.
Detonated! What if this triggers more aftershocks or a massive landslide?
I agree. But we must prevent any secondary disasters from occurring. Order the engineer regiment to take explosives and deliver them by helicopter to the point closest to the chemical plant.
The plan was swiftly approved. Amidst toxic gas and flames, the sappers carried explosives uphill, set the charges, and quickly evacuated the wounded on their backs. The fire is closing in on the sulfur warehouse. Blasting the mountain is urgent. Just then, Commander Tang noticed his wife was still trying to save a worker. Without hesitation, he leaped from the vehicle to help his wife rescue the worker. Time is up. Commander Tang orders the demolition team to detonate it immediately.
This is Tang Jincheng. The storage tanks are about to explode, requesting immediate directional blasting. Evacuate immediately. I order you. Wait, no.
He and his wife were prepared to lay down their lives for the country. At that very moment, the vehicle that had left backed up for them. The commander carried the worker and pulled his wife as they rushed onto the vehicle. Upon the final command, the charges were detonated.
Fire!
as debris filled the sky. Rocks thundered down and successfully suppressed the fire. Commander Tang and his wife made a narrow escape. 18 years have passed since the Wenchuan earthquake, but that period of history will never be forgotten. It taught us the preciousness of life, and that unity can overcome any hardship. We must cherish our current peace and happiness, study diligently, and use our strength to help others, and protect our motherland in the future. After watching Epic Journey, I have come to truly understand 3 things. First, the radiance of humanity shines brightest in the direst of straits. In the face of disaster, there is fear and chaos, but more so, the courage of countless ordinary people who do the impossible against all odds. Responsibility and innate kindness are humanity's greatest strengths in the face of natural disasters. Second, survival itself is a form of great perseverance. Beyond grandiose heroism, beneath the ruins, every breath, every cry for help, and every shared sip of water define the true weight of perseverance. Endure and survive is to see the light of day again. Third, unity and trust are the bridges that span across suffering. What makes this film moving is not just its grand scale, but how people uplift and watch over one another in their darkest hours. This bond forged in hardship is a treasure more precious than any material resource. Though the disaster was earth-shattering, the human spirit is even more indestructible. As long as we stand as one with a united will, no obstacle is insurmountable. Born ordinary, yet daring to risk everything for others. This is the true most moving spirit of the Chinese people.